We are here because we are dedicated to helping the entire CrossFit community. Determined to elevate coaches, box owners, athletes, and everything in between, we believe that this mission will begin right here, right now. While this time and this goal begins with you, our hope is that you take this fire ignited within you and weave it into your own life with the same unrelenting passion to give those you have the privilege of coming in contact with the best hour of their day.
Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Best Hour of Their Day. Fern, before we kick off into today's topic, people were enamored by my power clean.
I have a question. Do you know what enamored means?
I'll Google it. I heard somebody else use it. Did I use it appropriately?
It's definitely not out of context. I'm not sure you actually know what enamored means.
I'm going to give you some insight into the life of Jason Ackerman.
I don't know if I want any insight into your life.
You want this. It's going to make you a better person. I read often. I read on my Kindle at least every night before bed and oftentimes in the morning. And what I'm trying to do is learn more words. So when I see a word that I'm not exactly sure of, you can press on it on the Kindle and it gives you the definition. So I'm trying to expand my vocabulary.
Well, this might be the only time I'm going to say this, but I'm proud of you.
So anyway, we do have some follow-up questions on our Power Clean episode before we get into the idea of keeping your box clean. So let me bring up these questions. So, someone had reached out to us about the Power Clean video. I said, listen to the episode. And after they listened to the episode, they still had a few other questions. Question 1, is it considered okay to catch the bar off the body if it is indeed a sound partial squat? Is that even possible under load? I don't feel like it is. I think the poor front rack is the cause of the muted hip in this case. And let me be clear. This person was asking me a lot of questions about mobility, which, of course, we answered in previous episodes that it's rarely lack of mobility. But I'll give you a quick answer to this, and you can chime in. You're not going to catch it.
I'm not even sure I understand. What do you mean off of the body?
I guess, you ever see someone front squat and they're so tight, or they think they're so tight that the bar doesn't even sit on the shelf?
Oh, so the bar is just supported in the hand and the wrist.
Hand, wrist, right. So obviously, to answer this question, the short answer is no, that shouldn't happen. It's going to potentially hurt you. But if it does, it's just extremely light. It's, 95 pounds for men where you can just flick it up there. But it's
that presents a lot of other potentially injurious situations, because if you have a full grip on the bar and you're holding onto it like that, there's only one place where your elbows can be, and it is directly down pointed at your knees, at which point you're asking for a wrist injury.
Well, yeah, especially if you're attempting to squat clean it.
Right.
I mean, you could power clean it, flash the elbows, and it may never touch your shoulders. But, in that circumstance, you'd have to be aware of what the range of motion standards are. If you're in, whether it's in class or a competition, does it have to be on your shoulders? Does it just have to be, shoulder height, elbows, etc.? Either way, we're not allowing people to do that because they could potentially injure themselves.
Right.
Question number 2, does utilization of dumbbells actually help anything improve? Or is it just a way to get the athlete moving safely with one less one-on-one attention? I'm sorry, with less one-on-one. So basically, can we give this athlete dumbbells instead of a barbell and not have to be so focused on them in a class setting?
You can, and that is absolutely, if they have a front rack that is such for lack of better terms, a dumpster fire, that is the only safe position where they could get load to the front rack in order to keep their elbows in something that would resemble a high elbow position, then yes, you can do that. However, I don't think that we should punt and just be like, here's your dumbbells, good luck. I'm still going to continue to coach them. All of the mechanics still apply with regard to that. So if you do that, that's totally fine, but don't ignore that person. Just like, they got the dumbbells, they're fine. I still need to get that dialed in, because the question is always, and we've talked about this in previous episodes with regard to relentlessness, is are they actually physically not capable to get into that position, or do we just need to make them work a little bit harder? And I don't know the answer to that. That is athlete dependent, and that is a gray as it gets. However, more often than not, just a little bit more work will get people into what we would describe as better, and that is the goal. Also, from a standpoint, and Todd has always brought this up when he's been on the show, is that a lot of those people want to get to the barbell. So my job is to get them to the barbell. And if you always just say, all right, here's your dumbbells, that's no different than saying, all right, here's your rubber band for your pull-ups. Here's the purple band that you'll never get pull-ups with. So, and I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but I have seen that. So
yeah, it's masking a problem, right? I don't think it's a terrible idea, but it should be, you're going through everything we're doing to teach. You're going through this skill work, barbell, you're going to work to get better. 3, 2, 1, go. Maybe I'll give you dumbbells so you can get some intensity so I don't have to worry about you. But also potentially after class, I need you doing X, Y, and Z to continue to improve.
Correct.
All right. One more question in regards to the power clean. How do you help an athlete who has an unsafe front rack and no understanding of the reality of the load they should be lifting?
That should be done in the warm-up.
Dive deeper into that, yeah.
Yeah, so meaning I should be doing a series of things that would cause this person to come to that conclusion on their own. Meaning, in the general warm-up, we should maybe do some things that involve putting things in the front rack, whether it's kettlebells, dumbbells, potentially medicine ball. There's some kind of like fun games you can do there. And then in the specific warm-up, I should be doing a progression to check those positions, and then maybe progressive loading, and then maybe a test round that we've talked about. So there's no absolute here, but you can absolutely hedge your bets on a lot of these things and get what you need out of this, because it does still happen. But you and I both know this, like it's very rare in our classes at this point that unfolds after 3, 2, 1, go. And it's not because we are the greatest coaches of all time.
Yeah, I am up there.
I was just trying to give some humility there, but there's a series of things that are done very intentionally to avoid that at all costs, and that's what we should be doing. You know, how you communicate the whiteboard brief, what the specific warm-up looks like. Are you doing a prove it round? Like all of these things are designed to dial that athlete in so that they can hit the proper stimulus while maintaining safe movement.
And that's a solid point. You know, we talk a lot about timelines where really there's deeper reason for each step, right? There's 4 steps most coaches should be taking an athlete through before 3, 2, 1, go. We have this whiteboard brief. Then we've got a general warm-up where I'm starting to look at, okay, maybe we're doing push-ups to get our wrists warm. What's this athlete's push-ups look like? Then we're going to a specific warm-up where now I get to see what does their clean look like with a barbell or PVC. And like you mentioned, then we have the WOD buildup where I'm basically seeing the load they should be or intend to use. So I have 4 touch points before even getting there.
And then 5 is intervening.
Yeah, don't be afraid to touch that load during the workout. But I think
they just say, no, that's not happening.
You know, it's like a funny story you've alluded to. You know, Chappie walks in with a knife. Chappie being your son. He doesn't know any better, right? And a lot of times these athletes don't know anything.
I think he's starting to know a little bit better because he has that shit-eating grin on his face now.
Okay, so maybe, but hey, we see that in athletes, but there are plenty of athletes that are like, well, the board says 95, I'm newer, I'm doing 75, thinking I'm scaling right, but they just don't know any better. So I think it's important if you're coaching that intervening or just letting someone know that you're in charge and you're doing this to protect them, to keep them safe, etc.
And to use the Chuck Carswell, but in a different context, just ask one more question. Hey, can you do that 5 times touch and go? And they're like, no. Be like, remember when I said we should be able to do that 5 times touch and go? And if you don't do that, then you're going to be doing a workout in 25 minutes. And they're like, yeah, but I'm like, but that's what's going to happen. So just ask questions. You sure? That looks really heavy. You have to do that 75 times. So like and these are all things that they have not thought about that I can continue to layer onto them that they will just be like, yeah, I'm about to do something really dumb. So I'm going to avoid that.
Yeah, just saving them from themselves. You know, it's like the world. Most people aren't bad. They're just making dumb decisions.
And our job is to help them not be dumb.
Speaking of helping people not be dumb, we've had some feedback recently from box owners and coaches alike that are struggling to get buy-in from their members when it comes to keeping the box clean, right? So we all want this sparkling, shiny box, and oftentimes it falls on the last coach of the day and ultimately the box owner to come through, whether it's run the bulldog, to get the floors clean, wipe the pull-up bars down. There's blood, there's, dirt, there's chalk everywhere. So we're going to dive into this, but let's talk first for you, CrossFit Rife. What are some of the tips and tricks you would immediately give out? Hey, I'm struggling to get my members to clean up after themselves.
And this seems like a simple topic, but there's so many layers to this.
Yeah, I pay membership. Well, I have to clean too.
There's so many layers to this. Right. So there's the obvious, which is everybody should wipe their stuff down. And in COVID world, people are more than happy to do that. So that should be happening. So buy some sanitation wipes, mount them on the wall, rip them down, and do that. However, if your class is a shit show and your lesson plan is off, well, that's the first thing that doesn't get done because there's no time at the end. So going back to what we've referenced before, these things are intentional, and I've said it before, and I will kind of hold this line in the sand. Anything less than 7 minutes is not enough time for a cleanup and a cool down. It's
Let me ask you,
practically speaking. Go ahead.
Agreed. Specific question: do you use wipes or do you use spray with rags?
We use wipes now, but we have additional cleaning protocols that we do on top of that. So, at the end of the day, we'll spray everything down, or we have like a little fumigator deal just to, do whatever. But
you walk around with like one of those like sprays that's
it's like a fogger basically, and then not every single day, but like where I can get big bulk, amounts of equipment at once, I'll do it there.
You're doing this, or you got Lindsay and Cassidy doing this?
Well, sometimes I'll do it. I kind of like to clean. It's like
man of the people firm.
It's kind of like, some of that is my therapy. So like running the scrubber and stuff like that.
Speaking of Lindsay, always trying to get on the show.
Always trying to get
Lindsay, we get it. You want to be on the best hour. Hey, let me throw a shout out to one of your coaches, Jake. Hit me up on the old DM about crushing carnivore.
He's doing carnivore?
You do know Jake? He's your coach. You pay him?
No. I know who Jake is, but you're saying that he's doing carnivore, or he's getting you, or he's doing props because you do carnivore.
No. He reached out to me 2 months ago. Did he not talk to you about this?
Not about carnivore, no.
Dude, look, Fern, let's talk about you and your relationship with your coaches. I need you to get a stronger bond.
You want me to tell you his story?
I know he's got a great story. I mean, if you're comfortable sharing it, sure. But I want to give him. Let me finish.
Yeah, give him a shout out, and then I'll tell the story about Jake. It's amazing.
I'm gonna actually pull it up. He DM'd me. Hold on, and I believe it. Let's see.
So the short and sweet of this, while you're looking that up,
go ahead. I got it.
Is that there's multiple levels to getting people to clean up, and the first thing I have to identify is what is my responsibility, and then how can I get people to do these things without telling them to do them. And then what is their responsibility? So there's kind of probably like 3 big ticket items here. So me as the box owner, like my job is to keep the facility clean. Like why you would think anything other than that, I don't know.
And that is ultimately the responsibility falls on you.
Right. Yeah.
As does everything. Your job. Extreme ownership, Jocko.
For sure. Then on top of that, like how could I get people to just do that? Right. The whole Jedi mind trick. Like if there's certain things you can absolutely do, where people will put their shit back every single time. And we have that here. And it's taken me years and years and years of trial and error. And they're things that I stole from the military, which are just basic, like human behavior type stuff. And then how can I get them to double down? Right. So it's not like, people complain about chalk. And I'm like, well, if you don't like chalk on the floor, then don't fucking have chalk, because if you have chalk, it's going on the floor. You just have to kind of police people with regard to like, treating it like it's snowing outside. But outside of that, make sure people, if you design things and it's organized and it's clean, then people tend to keep it that way. right? Like cleanliness begets more cleanliness. And, if you're a hoarder, then people just throw shit in your car when they walk by because it looks like a trash heap. So that is what you're trying to dial up. And we'll get into that some in just a second, because there's a lot of tips and tricks for this that are very, very simple and useful. But go ahead and hit me with what Jake said.
So Jake just hit me up. We've been going back and forth. He asked me this is months ago, about a carnivore. And then yesterday he said carnivore update from 1221 to 120. So about 30 days, he's up 0.9 pounds of muscle mass. So nearly a pound of muscle mass and down 2 pounds of body fat. So 3 pound change right there. And then I said, great. Get Fern on it. And he said, Fern is too weak.
I am too weak. However, I actually have been considering it.
I said that.
I wouldn't be upset if he said that. We have that kind of relationship. I have been considering it, just totally randomly. I have been considering doing it
randomly, aka I see how amazing Ackerman is doing on it.
No, my fear is that I'll fucking be short if I do it, because both you and
it does make you shake.
You and Jake are both short. But let me tell his story real quickly. So we did a video of him, but this is before he was a coach, actually, just kind of a testimonial video. And we dropped it. And then it was such a compelling story that CrossFit shared it. And I think it got something north of 2 million views.
Almost as many downloads as we get regularly. Right.
And so long and short, he was an EOD guy in the Navy. So he was a bomb tech in the Navy, and he was doing a parachute exercise. And he was making a turn at about 300 feet. His parachute collapsed, and he essentially lawn darted into the floor, like a human lawn dart into the ground from 300 feet, and survived. But he had something like 17 surgeries. He had like a ruptured aorta the size of a tennis ball. Like, he had fractured pelvis. I mean, just an absolute disaster. And then he joined the gym, and then I don't remember what the time frame was, but when he was here, when he, got back to, because he was CrossFitting before, and then he was not with us, but before, and then in the military was obviously super fit, but then had that accident and then got back to it. And I think within like 2 years or something like that of post-accident, deadlifted 405 again.
Ooh, so he could do just about everything back at it?
I mean, he's still like banged up, right? Like, there's still things are going on. Like, he's got pins in his ankle, and he's still got some things going on with his hip. But for the most part, I mean, he's a fit dude. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's not, well, he's you're not going to like push him over and he's going to fall, just fall down. So it's an incredible story, dude. I mean, it's just like, I'm like, you should definitely be dead.
Well, I will say one benefit of carnivore is that it helps you reduce inflammation. So I'm sure that it'll help anybody, but especially someone that had 17 I'm curious surgeries.
If that's why he's doing it, because he's had some issues with
I mean, when he reached out to me, he just said, I'm so enamored with you, right, Jason Ackerman. I want to do whatever you're doing.
He was like, I have no idea what this means, but it sounds smart.
so
but he's a super sharp dude, and actually he's somebody that is constantly coming with ideas like today's topic, where he's that guy that's constantly like giving feedback and like, hey, we should move this over there. You thought about this?
Get him on the show. Do an interview with him.
I will.
I mean, he's gonna just basically be praising me the entire time. But if you can get him to stop for a moment, talk about his story. So I love the way you said, though, it starts from the top. That goes for anything, right? Oh, you want people to buy into your programming? Do it yourself. You want people to move well? Do it yourself. You want people to show up on time, etc. But what are some other things when it comes to keeping the box clean that you were getting at?
Well, first and foremost, so let's start internally before we go externally. And this is how you communicate this to the team. There's a book, I think it's called The Wonderful World of Customer Service at Walt Disney or something along those lines. And one of Disney's mottos, or one of their kind of like internal mottos, is everyone picks up trash.
Yeah, like I think they make people do that job at some point, right?
Everybody does. So the CEO all the way down to the very new person, everybody picks up trash. And that's where you should start with that is, so I've had this conversation many, many times, which is, hey, if you're in the bathroom and the toilet paper is low, swap it out. If the trash can is full, take it out. If whatever, like, just do it. You're saving somebody else a lot of time, right? So getting people to understand that somebody's going to have to do more work later because you're lazy now.
And you're obviously talking to your coaches when you say this, right?
That's what I'm
Not
talking.
your members, right?
That's what I'm talking about. So it starts with the staff first, and then what you'll find is that if everybody's doing that, people see it, and then peer pressure takes over because that's just the culture within the gym, which is people pick up trash and they put things away. So it starts with you. So your coaches, if you want your members to put things away or they're not putting away, I would be willing to bet that your coaches don't put things away either. And yes, you might be like, I always put my stuff away. And I'm like, it's not just you. You're not the only one in the facility. Other people leave their shit out too. And that creates problems because that means it's okay. Now, if everybody, like for instance, like I'm thinking about it right now, because I was in a hurry and I left the box out there in the gym, which I'm going to go get during that class.
But maybe because you've trained everybody so well, somebody else has done it.
Somebody probably will. And then I'll find out who it was and I'll say, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. So that is where you start, right? And then the other thing with regard to this, which I've gotten better and better at over the years is, so this is something I learned in the military, and this is like an aviation thing, because in aviation, what they call FOD, or like foreign object debris, you can't be left anywhere because it'll get sucked into an intake or something like that. So tool accountability is a big fucking deal when you're talking about aviation, meaning like, hey, like you can't just leave a wrench out, because if they take off on this airplane, it'll get sucked into the engine and kill everybody. So when they, in the aviation world, if you look at toolboxes, all of the toolboxes have like, so most people's just toolboxes is like a bunch of fucking tools dumped into the toolbox, right? In the aviation world, in order to keep accountability and keep it very quick and simple, all the tools have like cutouts. So the tool goes back into its cutout. And then if I look at the toolbox, you're like, we're missing a wrench. That's a problem. Where is it?
It's like our sex toy drawer. Every sex toy has a very specific. I hope Roz doesn't.
He does have like a bunch of fists in there.
That's in my private sex toy.
Yeah. So and the whole point of that is it has to be really obvious where things go. So if you were to come into our facility, for the most part, I think we've done the best we can here because it is a warehouse, but over the years, we've redone it every single time. Everything is labeled. Almost everything is color coded. And we have like different signs, right? So like if you walk over to the wall ball racks, the racks are numbered. So we have this big rogue racks, but they're numbered with the weight. So you can't just like, if you put it there, like you literally just put a 14 on a 20 because you're just being lazy.
So here's what I would love. We take some pictures of those and we'll send them over to Katie and she'll drop them on Instagram. So
100%. And then other things like all of the weight trees, right? So all of our weight trees are built into the pull-up rig. So they're pins that come out horizontally, and all of them are color coded. All of the weights are color coded. So if you have a white, it goes on the white tree. If you have a yellow, it goes on the yellow tree.
I assume you do yellows or 35s.
Yellows are 15s actually. So the white is 10, yellow is 15, orange is green is 25, orange is 35, and blue is 45.
So similar to the color of competition plates.
Right. And all of this is to help me clean up, but think about what this does for new people when they come in.
Super simple.
Like just by process of elimination, they could figure out where these things go. They're like, oh, this one's blue. I'll put it over here. And then the one that we figured out most recently, this is probably about a year ago. I don't remember if I stole this or something like that, but like storing of all the rowers we hang on the wall.
Oh, you have the little hooks for the rowers?
Right. Yeah.
That's smart, yeah.
It's kind of a pain in the dick to get them off the wall for the ladies because they're heavy and they're kind of awkward. If you're like short, then it's really awkward. But anyway, we usually sort that out before or afterhand anyway.
And really, when you have a rowing day, it's only a problem for the first class.
Right, which we've solved for that too, because we have internal protocols with the person who teaches the evening class, takes that down and sets the class for the morning class.
Wow, so your last class, so rather than making your early coach show up earlier,
right,
last class,
and there's
usually multiple people paid for that.
Well, everybody just does it because you're going to get it at some point anyway, right?
Gotcha.
And it usually when the person's shutting down, there's multiple coaches in the facility, so it's usually like a quick team effort to rip them all down and put them down. But it's just so awesome, and we do that for boxes, for rings, and it's just protocol for us now, and everybody knows that's what we do. And this is kind of like from legacy from about the All Blacks, which is like sweep the sheds. Everybody chips in to do these things. So once you start doing that, everybody just does it because
you brushed over a great book. Legacy, all about the New Zealand All Blacks
Right.
rugby team. Yeah, great book. Check it out.
But the other one, which is like, so we had this, I could never get the assault bikes to go back where they were.
Because they're a pain in the ass to move. You got to step on the front, lift them up. Yeah.
Well, but like they would go in the corner, but like only really I knew how they fit. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's
And
like
so then
rowers.
people would,
Yeah.
right. So people would put them back in all these fucking weird. And I'm just like, what? They're like, what is happening
It
over
makes
here?
no sense what you're
It
doing.
makes no sense whatsoever. So here's what I found out. We basically, with tape on the floor, put parking spaces and bikes. And if you want bikes to not be a pain in the ass to get them out, turn them diagonally like you would in a parking space, and they're so easy to get out,
Yeah.
even if they're directly next to each other, because you turn them diagonally and they offset distance. So we have parking spaces that are numbered for all the bikes. And it's super tight, but we pull them out and they go, and every single time they go right back where they went. Same thing for the ski ergs. They're boxed in. It's like skier 1, skier 2, skier 3. And then when we pull them out, we put them where we're supposed to, and then they go back right where they're supposed to. So this is how you get people to do that without getting them to do it. So everything has a home. There's nothing where we have like a bucket of things or this stuff is over on the wall. Like if everything has a home, it's obvious where everything should go, and then people will put it back.
Well, we definitely want to see pictures of the rowers, the skiers, and the bikes, because I think, and even the spray painted bumpers, because I think for most people, the monostructural equipment is really where the struggle is. But anything that you have organized, the wall balls, I'm sure your kettlebells, your dumbbells, we'll throw it up there. It'll be on our Instagram if you're listening to this. Katie will take care of it. She's the bomb. Check her out on Instagram too, by the way.
And there's hidden benefits to this too, which you don't pick up until you do it. And a lot of that is all of these things chew up 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 3 minutes in your timeline, which you didn't account for. And if you don't have that, then that's why you will constantly be off, is because you're not accounting for how long that should take. But if I make it very easy, then getting the wall balls out is obvious, because they walk up and in 15 feet away, they can identify where their wall ball is, instead of that complete clusterfuck that we've all seen where they walk up and 9 people are staring at the wall ball collection trying to figure out where the 1 12-pound wall ball is. And then that takes 4 fucking minutes.
Something you said earlier was 7 minutes is not enough time. Right. What is enough time?
7 minutes is the minimum.
So class at 53,
53,
on the clock, whatever
53.
it is. That's typically what I try, but the reality is, for newer coaches, if they're leaving 7 minutes, you're not getting 7 minutes. So I shoot
for 10 to get 7. Yeah, right. I shoot for 10 to get 7. Yeah.
The other night, my class runs over. I've got a 4, 5, 6 on Mondays.
That's because you're a mediocre coach.
No, because of course one person.
Lindsay just spit out her food.
Great dude, but he didn't scale appropriately, to the point that he's the only one moving. And I just, I don't like to cut people off. He wound up scaling the pull-ups down to ring rows, but it was, too little, too late. And I knew, and going back to what we said about intervening, I realized it on round 2. Like, he was so far behind. I should have went in there and been like, dude, we got to change X, Y, or Z. There's 3, it was a triplet.
Right.
But
what was the other thing that we did? Oh, I stole this from, what gym were we at? What was the last gym we went to in Raleigh? Grove? No, Oak something?
Where we did the crossover symmetry warm-up?
Right, yeah.
Oak City, that's
right. I stole this from them when we were there. So the dumbbells and the kettlebells are prime offenders for just being a hot mess. We're getting ready to add one more layer to this, but this was interesting. We didn't actually give them all specific homes, but we did number the dumbbell. And I may have talked about this before. We did number on the side of the head of the dumbbell the weight.
Oh yeah, you did that. Yeah, that was smart.
Which actually has 2 benefits. Number one, it removes all of this shit show of people trying to find the right dumbbell.
Because you can't see them on some of the rubber heads.
Right, or you have to turn it 3 times and it's in the wrong spot, but I can see the sides of all of them. So even if it's to the bottom, I can quickly identify and get it out of there. So it makes for quick transitions for people to get dumbbells because they can identify them very quickly and then grab them and go. But from a coaching standpoint, it also makes it very easy to identify what they have because I can read it from 30 feet because it's written in like a silver Sharpie. And I'm like, 25, they're really struggling. That should be 20. I'm going to make that change right now. And I'm just going to do the swap and I don't have to ask them. I know what weight that is because I can read it. So those two things like had it, but in addition to those two things, people typically put them back in a relatively organized fashion because they can see it. They're like, this is a 25, this is a 25, I'm just going to stack them right here.
Yeah, you just get one of those Sharpie like paint markers and you can write on the side there. But yeah, I mean, Fern dropped that reference of dropping in. If you've not already checked us out on YouTube, it's also on our website. It's the first thing you'll see, besthouroftheirday.com. You'll see.
Trying to schedule season 2, but
we're going to get it done.
He's just like, listen, I'm going to have a baby. And I'm like, listen, I've got to get over it. Listen, I'm not. Actually, I would like to see you with a child.
I'm at the point now where I keep my phone on full time even when Roz isn't around. It's crazy. It's stressful. She called earlier. I was on a call. I'm like, is everything okay? She's like, yeah, it's fine. But anyway.
Like, I'm gassy. And you're like, thanks.
Check out Dropping In. And also, we're answering questions right now from our listeners, but we do have a Patreon account where we answer questions that only go to those patrons or Patreon subscribers. So our first bonus episode actually dropped today. We drop it on the third Thursday of the month. So hopefully if you're a subscriber over there, you've checked it out. We've already gotten great feedback about it. So patreon.com/best hour of their day. Let me ask you this.
I'm trying to think of other things that we do too in there. Just like, but everything should have a home. Everything should have a home.
And you'll take all those pictures. How about what not to do? I've seen box owners that I've been a part of coaching at their box, and in fairness, I was probably guilty of this as well. It's like somebody leaves a mess, you take a picture, you put it on your social media, you put it in your private group. Is that a good idea?
I mean, is publicly berating the people that pay you money a good idea?
Yeah, I mean, you could do it in such a way where it's like, who did this? Please don't do it again. But that is not how you do that. So for instance, how do you handle that?
You go to the source or you go internally to the team and be like, what the fuck is going on over here? Like, and just ask questions. So for instance, like we have, is it OSO or OSO collars? You know,
I think it's I know what you're talking. I don't know. I think it's OSO, but I
think it's OSO. Anyway, Rogue purchased the company. Rogue purchased the company.
I didn't realize Rogue bought them.
Yeah, a couple years ago.
I'll tell you what, too.
Smart move.
Those are one of the things where you could buy cheaper and they break. We have the
spend the money. Exactly. Spend the money and buy the good ones. I think they're about $60, 45 to $60 a pair. So not on the cheap end when you're talking about collars, right?
But Rogue will also replace them.
Will they?
I'm almost positive if you reach out to
Rogue. If
Rogue.
the pens and shit come out?
Yeah.
So the pens do come out occasionally. But anyway, so if people do that stuff, it's just, do the right thing, which is have a one-on-one conversation. Don't post a picture on Instagram and be like, what's up? Because like we've had a couple instances where people leave those on the ground and then people drop weights on them and then they bend them and they're quasi not usable. But Jake, who we referenced earlier, he's into cars and all that stuff and he's got like all sorts of crazy tools and he can fix it. So I'll just give it to him, but he fixes. And he's like, yeah.
How do you store your collars?
Great question. So we bought one of those. So Rogue has, I think there's a tab that's just called storage on their website. So they make basically the 3x3 piping that a pull-up rig is made out of. And you can just buy a section of piping. And then they make the pins that go in that just snap onto that. Like the same thing you would use for like the Matadors, which is the dip bars and the adjustable pullers. Just that orange kind of like safety pin that's got the little linch pin on it. So I bought one of those, or a couple of them, one of those strips of piping, and then put the like 3 of those pins that you would for weight storage on each of them, and then that's where all of the collars go. We just slide them right on there, and it's right by the bathroom. So the bathroom on one side has a big foam roller rack or 2 foam roller racks, and then on the other side it's got the Matadors and the collars on the other side that are all stored there. And you walk up there and you're like, this is clearly where this goes.
Yeah, Rogue has gotten to the point now where it's cheaper to buy their product than just going to, like, back in the day, you go to Home Depot, you buy some piping. Like, I bought change storage from my garage gym to just to slap on my rig. And I was like,
Right.
oh, I could probably buy this. And by the time I go buy it from Home Depot, screw it, and it's like for 40
Then you got to make it. You got to do some
Yeah.
weird fabrication, all that stuff. So I mean, they've thought of all that. So you can buy most of that stuff there, and so that's how we do pretty much everything. So the goal for a gym, because everybody knows this, like, shit on the floor collects dust. If you can get almost everything off of the floor, you can keep your gym significantly cleaner. So
Well,
nothing goes on the floor.
and we've said this before, but floor space is your most valuable asset, right? So everything, obviously, you need some wall space, whether it's handstand push-ups or wall balls. Although if you have targets, you don't need them for wall ball, and you can always clear some space for the hand.
Mhm.
What do you do? Handstand push-ups once every 2 weeks, maybe. But a clean floor space, obviously easier to clean if
Right.
it's empty. Like you said, it collects dust, but really, that's how you accommodate more people in your class. Assuming
Right.
there's a couple other barriers there, but floor space is the most valuable commodity you own.
Right. So then how do I maximize that? Well, I got to be hyper organized. And then if you have a lot of equipment, or you're starting to accumulate a lot of equipment because you've been around longer, or you're growing, so you need all that stuff, then this is one of the first things you need to think about is, if I'm going to increase volume in the door, you can't think that you're just going to operate the way you were with 10 people, go to 20, and it's going to be just as organized. Like, it's not going to happen. So you have to think about logistics, like, what are cross patterns look like? Where's this equipment stored? Is it easy to get out? Is it obvious? So that when you have a class of 20, you're like, everybody get a wall ball. Well, if those are not organized, well, that is a 5-minute evolution. Like, don't even think anything otherwise. Be like, I'm just going to sit over here, have some coffee, like Lindsay does in class.
Yeah,
And
she's notorious. When I see her just drinking coffee, walking
Right.
around, hands in her pocket.
we keep walking into the shows and asking for it.
I think what you're saying is true. You could be super organized, but if it's not in a proper way, it's still slow. We had a shed at one point where we would store boxes or these big things, but then, like you said, it's like it would be 20 minutes for everyone to take out a box because it was in this narrow little shed where you had to, one person go in at a time.
Right. So yeah. So once you get everything stored, then kind of like the musical chairs game starts to happen, which is, as I figure out that I've unintentionally created these weird traffic patterns that now have friction because there's too much cross, and it doesn't make sense because I put the PVC pipes over there, which we use every day, and it's in the far back corner of the gym. It's the most high volume thing that we use. Well, that's not an appropriate place for that. So let me move it and put it into a spot that is easier to get to. And all of a sudden you can start buying back 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes of a timeline because things are just organized better and they're very obvious to get to. And this was years ago. We started kind of chipping away at that, and it's pretty damn good now. We're like, nothing takes long. Like, I mean, like 60 seconds to do pretty much anything in the gym.
And one thing you could do is, hey, if you're in the back, go grab this first. If you're in the front, go grab this first. So you're not getting everyone going to the same piece of equipment at the same time. Lots of tips like that. But ultimately, I think the cleanliness of your box, A, trickles down. You take care of the box, your coaches will, your members will. But B, make it easy to do. And that's exactly what you've done there.
Easy. The other question that comes up with regard to this, because we've been talking a lot about equipment, but we haven't talked about is people's stuff. Just shit, bags, shoes, knee sleeves, belts, jump ropes, thumb tape, like all that stuff. I know gyms love to make cubbies and all of that stuff. Don't do it. Cubbies are just an invitation for people to leave all of their belongings at your gym.
So what do you recommend?
Don't have anywhere for people to put their shit.
So if I
like within reason, right? So we have like a seating area when you come into the gym, but there's not like a bunch of cubbies out there. There's 2 high top tables with 4 high top stools. There's a bench, and then we have 2 locker rooms. But if you Yeah, we have locker rooms. So like dump all your stuff in there. That's what it's for. But I'm getting ready to do a little bit of rearranging there too, because the tables are starting to get overrun. So there's like a little walkway. I'm going to create like people could put their keys there and a coat hangers and all that other stuff, because this is the stuff that, as your gym grows, you have more people and maybe it's cold outside. If 20 people come in with,
jackets,
Uggs and jackets and all this, I mean, that stuff will quickly start to encroach onto the floor and it looks like a hot mess. So not only your gym stuff, but storage of people's personal things should have, the big ticket items, very obvious places to put it. Coat hangers, right? Like key hangers, stuff like that, so that it doesn't make it all over the place. How many times will we all be like, somebody's text you after the class, be like, I lost my wedding ring. I think I put it over there on the J hook, because that's where wedding rings go. And if you could go search all 68 J hooks in your facility to find my wedding ring that is silicone black that exactly matches the Rogue rig, I would appreciate that. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't have anything else going on right now. I totally appreciate that. Not that that's ever happened to me.
Yeah. This is a first.
not that that's ever happened to me, but that stuff happens. So,
well, let me ask you this though. You have a locker room. What do you recommend?
You're not really gonna piss.
Oh my goodness! I had to go so bad. I was gonna try to wrap up the show, but you brought up some great topics. I'm eating right now.
This is a first. So this is gonna make the YouTube channel. Everybody, no shocker, we can't see it.
I drank so much water earlier. You know when you pee and you aim for the area that doesn't have the water, so you don't know.
Yeah, it's not working. We can all hear you pee.
I have a strong stream.
Yeah,
it's my strongest muscle.
It's just because you're so close to the toilet. Because you're short.
I would like to get a urinal in my house.
Yeah.
So
just a stand-up urinal.
Yeah, I think that's like you've made it. If you have a stand-up urinal in your house.
Have you made it, or are you just living in a truck stop?
But you have locker rooms. A lot of people that are listening don't have locker rooms. So, like, for example,
so yes, do the best you can, right? So this is the same conversation I was having with somebody the other day about doing a consult, which is like, if you don't have a conference room, well, then you have to have it in the gym. But the point is, you should be thoughtful about what these things look like and how they're set up. And if they don't work, continue to reorganize them and design them and get creative. Don't always look at the gym to figure out ideas for this. Look at, Southern Living magazine, look at all these things that are like organizational type websites or magazines or whatever.
What's the box? The first box, I want to say Invoke. They actually had a spot on their wall for rings.
Right.
Yeah. So little things like that, and I think it's important. You train, you do this. So I show up at the box this time of year. I'll wear boots. So having a spot for people to change their shoes, because you don't want them showing up with dirty shoes.
Right.
But there's probably the guy, it's one of those classic CrossFit caricatures of the guy who has a duffel bag with here's my hand wraps, here's my knee sleeves, here's my belt, here's my shoes in case we lift, here's my shoes in case we run.
There was a dude that used to come all the time, and I have another girl, I give her shit, she'll go in the morning and she'll just take up the whole small gym, and there's just stuff everywhere. She just unloads her whole bag, 87 weight belts, 17 pairs of shoes, wrist wraps, all the stuff. But I had another guy who had that mat. You've seen that really large Hilite backpack, which is which is far too large to be a backpack, by the way, Hilite. I don't know what you guys are doing. Yeah. That is what we would call a 5-day pack in the military, where you're 5 days worth of shit can go in there to that you could traverse the some austere environments with that thing. It's just way too much. But if you're going to do stuff like that, the other thing is to make it obvious, right? So if you have sounds ridiculous, but this helps. If you are going to have these little hooks for rings or keys, you should put a sign up there that says rings and keys, because if you don't, they're going to continue to put their shit on the table rather than hang it on the ring hook.
And it's also just a simple, hey, Jen, we got a spot for your ring now, put it up there.
Right.
And now she does it forever.
Right. So that you make it easy and you make it obvious. That is how you get people to buy in on that. If it's easy and it's obvious, they're to do it. If it's not easy and it's not obvious, not only are they not going to do it, they're going to complain about you asking them to do it.
And for the record, if you have a locker room or you are potentially considering that, that's another way to boost your revenue. You could rent lockers and say, hey, you can use any of the open lockers, but if you want a locker that's yours for the year, it's, $10 a month. And
Right.
people will gladly pay. Oh, I get to leave my nanos here. I get to leave my jump rope here. I never
You
have
can
to
put your
worry
own
about
lock on it. Yeah.
it. Yeah, keep a towel here.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Pre-workout, that's a good way to boost that average revenue, like we talk about in Affiliate University. All right, Fern, I think we nailed it.
I nailed it.
You did nail it.
You didn't do anything.
I took a quick
You took a piss. Yeah, you took a piss. You took a piss. You took a piss all over this episode. Thank you for that.
Well, if you haven't already, also go check out Doc Spartan. Use the code BESTHOUR for 15% off. Support us on Patreon. And check out the merch. I got an email from our new merch guy, and he was like, "You had the best."
We sold $1 million of merch.
A little more than $1 million.
Nice.
Yep.
$1 million pesos. We sold $1 million, which will very soon be worth as much as pesos, apparently, is where this is all going. So,
well, he said we had the best opening week of merch ever for his store. So,
what?
Yeah.
Damn, son.
That's how
All
we
right,
do
I'll
it here. We appreciate everybody that's going to be sporting. I know I haven't gotten mine yet. It should be here any day, but if you get your best hour gear, the Do That But Better shirt, please tag us, throw it up on Instagram, and we'll reshare it. All right, Fern, you want to add something?
I was gonna say thank you. I know I try to go out of my way when people DM us to say thank you for listening. So if you bought merch, thank you guys. We really appreciate it. If you listen to the show, thank you. We know you guys don't have to listen to Jay, and that can be really annoying. So I appreciate you putting up with him. But no, on a serious note, thank you guys for listening. It actually does mean a lot to us that you guys choose to listen to us because you don't have to. So thank you.
So you never miss an episode of the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel and on all major podcasting platforms at Best Hour of Their Day. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being a part of the best hour of our day. See you next time.